Hey, and welcome back. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about myocarditis. We're going to be talking about some vaccine stats right from the government websites. So then that way I'm not getting in trouble with the YouTube algorithms and stuff like that. And also we're going to be talking about Justin Trudeau's rare disease fund that they just put through. Well, it's actually Jean-Yves Duclos. It was his because he's the guy who does that for Health Canada, that kind of thing. So it was his initiative that was put forward to be able to improve access to affordable and effective drugs for rare diseases. So let's take a look at this real quick. We'll take a look at this and we'll talk about the other things after. So Canada's first ever national strategy for drugs for rare diseases is here. We're committing 1.5 billion over 3 years, so it's 500 million a year, to improve access to and affordability to effective drugs those living with rare diseases in need. So let's click on this link and see what happens. Of course, that didn't work very well. Give me a second. All right, so here is the statement on the government's website saying Government of Canada improves access to affordable and effective drugs for rare diseases. And then it says in Canada, 1 out of 12 people, many of whom are children, has a rare disease. There are thousands of different kinds. I think there was 7,000 approximately, and then there's more added every year or whatever. Um, Thousands of different rare diseases that affect patients, their families, caregivers across the country. Unfortunately, treatments are only available in small percentage of these conditions. Even when treatments that might dramatically improve the quality of the patient's life are available, they are often unaffordable and out of reach, meaning that they're not, uh, they're in a different country. So then that means they're not regulated by, Health Canada. So therefore it is out of reach because it's there, but it's not here, that kind of thing. And also unaffordable, meaning, for example, there was a hepatitis C treatment that was looked at, and I know someone who went on to that treatment, and they were in the trial period, and so they had Hep C for that they knew about for a few years that they didn't know about, and it was actually caused by alcoholism. And long story short, they went onto this treatment, and I think they said it was $700 a pill. So it was really, really expensive. So every day, Buddy was eating his rent once a day, kind of thing. And long story short, it worked. So that would be one of those things that if it was an American and wasn't here, and people had Hep C and it was working, then we can get it here, kind of thing, right? So that is one of the. I don't know if Hep C is one of those rare diseases, but it is one of the that's to give you an example. Anyways, so yeah, they're talking about how much money they're giving and all of this fun stuff, yada yada. So I'm going to put a link to this in the description down below. Um, and the one interesting thing that I found, so I was kind of like, well, what is a rare disease, right? Now I couldn't find a list of all 7,000. I couldn't find this and that and that and this. But what I did do is I did Google myocarditis, and I went back in time on Google there to try and kind of get an unbiased opinion to today's standards. And it just so happened that in the past, myocarditis has been seen as a rare disease for a few different reasons. One, it's deadly. If it goes undiagnosed, it can or will kill you. Is what those articles said. Also, because it usually gets misdiagnosed or goes undiagnosed, right? And that creates it to be a rare disease because let me see if I can pull this up real. Okay, so this is the myocarditisfoundation.org. I'll also put a link to that down in the comments as well. It says 50% more men than women get it, 32nd leading cause of death worldwide, 10% of sudden deaths in the United States, and 1 million cases in 2019. Now, that number right there is interesting because I did some Wayback Machine stuff on it, and I have no clue what's going on there, so I'll go over it briefly here with you guys in a second. Now, the other thing that I found in here was, oh, I don't know if it was on here. It's something like the rate of people to get it is somewhere between 0.5% to 2%. So that makes it a rare disease, right? It's not like it's 10 or 30% of the population that gets it. It's 0.5 to 2% of people that end up with myocarditis. Now, that is also, like I said, oh, I didn't show you that page. Ah, there we go. Okay, so let's go back up here. Right there. So yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So this number right here is the one that is interesting of what I was talking about. So going back to myocarditis. So it has been seen as a rare disease. Now, this is the first time nationally that we are doing this in Canada. So that makes sort of the question of, well, why now, right? Is it because of myocarditis? Is it because myocarditis is on that rare disease list? Is it because there's more people getting myocarditis? And those are all proven facts that I don't think I need to really show proof of, because we all know that myocarditis rates are on the rise. For example, in Ontario, the Ontario Health Minister, or top doctor or whatever, months ago said that 1 in 5,000 healthy young adults ends up with myocarditis after the shot. Now, that's healthy young adults. I did do a bunch of math as best as I could in a video previously. I can't remember if it was on my TikTok or if it was on YouTube, but I was kind of going over, okay, how many young healthy adults are in Ontario, and I kind of got the number, and the number was still pretty small, but it's pretty significant. It's not like it was one person in Ontario. Anyways, long story short, we don't know what the case count is for non-young or non-healthy young adults either, right? So that's the other thing. So anyways, let's take a look at some more things here. Okay, so this is the Wayback Machine, which I've mentioned a few times in videos before, where you can go back and you can take a look at previous versions of websites. So if someone makes a website, they put up that they love Putin, and then they go a month later and they say I hate Putin or whatever. You can go and take a look at the Wayback Machine, so long as that website has been logged, and see what the previous website was, and then yada yada, right? So that's something that the Wayback Machine does for you. So I actually went back quite a ways, back into like 2014, 2013, and 2015 and stuff like that, to kind of take a look at it. And the number was about 2.2 million a year. Then it goes down to 1 million per year, I think, somewhere in the well, that's what we saw earlier. And then there was, so in 2020, so this is August 21st, 2020, there was 3.1 million cases last year. Now, you would assume that means 2019, but at the same time, it was in between March 6th and March 27th. The website changed this number. Let me bring that up. So they changed this number from 3.1 million to the 1 million in 2019. So the question is, where does this 3.1 million come from? Is it from 2020? And why in March of 2021 did they go and they change it so that it says, instead of cases last year, it changes to cases in 2019? Is it because they finally got the numbers from 2019 of being 1 million cases, and then they never updated it? Now, this website is one of those places where you go to, where if you do end up with myocarditis or know someone with it, you can get information, you can get help, you can get resources, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of different websites like that. For example, like Heart and Stroke Foundation, cancer.com or .org or whatever it is. There's a lot of different places where you can get that kind of information, right? So anyways, that's what this is. I found that interesting. I'm sure you probably do too. I couldn't find an explanation, so I'm just bringing it, to light, whatever that might do, and stuff like that. So let's talk about some of the other things. All right, so this is, again, Government Canada website, like I said, for COVID-19 vaccinations, adverse side effects, blah, 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 right? And this was actually sent to me by I think a follower, if not just someone who commented on one of my videos on, or I commented on another video. Anyways, so I told them what my email address was. They sent it. If you want to send me anything, it's domuspromise@gmail.com. Feel free. And so they sent me this because they were talking about how there was deaths that were actually associated with the vaccine that are registered with the Health Canada now. And this is just to give an idea, right? So this goes down, and it's got a lot of information in there. I'll leave the link down in the bottom there so you can take a look at it. But it talks about, all of the different adverse events, blah, 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 by vaccine name, etc., including the bivalence and all that fun stuff. Then it talks about this. And so you can actually search through, some of these different, oh, not that one. But you can search through the different things. Oh, it's not popping up on the screen. Interesting. Anyway, so you can just click on this and then you can search through different things. Anyway, so it talks about like all the different things, adverse events and the rate of them and all that fun stuff. But what I found interesting, and this is why it was sent to me, so we go down here, we take a look at the Guillain-Barré, you got the thrombosis, blood clots, you got all these other things. In these adverse events, it doesn't actually show too much in regards to fatalities or deaths, right? Until we get down to this section here, safety signals identified and other safety updates. So deaths. And they said up to and including March 3rd, 2023, a total of 427 reports of an outcome of death were reported following vaccination. Although these deaths occurred after being vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine, they are not necessarily related to the vaccine. Now, in some more of this, so you can take a look at this yourself, what I gathered from this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it's right in this section here. 163 reports of deaths were unclassified due to lack of information. 106 deaths were inconsistent with casual association to the vaccine, unlikely to be linked to the vaccine. 42 deaths were indeterminate, insufficient definite evidence or conflicting evidence for casualty, and 4 deaths were consistent with casual association to immunization. Now, casual association means if you're a smoker and you end up with lung cancer, those two are casually associated. Now, there are people who's never smoked in their life and never been around anything like smoke, hypothetically, for long periods of time, and those people still come down with lung cancer, so that's why it's casually associated. Do we know that it was caused by the smoking? Or would they have gotten lung cancer anyways, right? So that's kind of what casual association means. So that means that we don't know if they would have died anyways, but they had the vaccine and the vaccine looks like it could have killed them, that kind of thing, right? So there's a casual association there. Now, as for the 42 reports was indeterminate, insufficient definite evidence or conflicting evidence of for casualty, this probably means they had some sort of other ailment that could have, with help of outside sources, caused them to die. So that could be that they had blood clotting issues already, and that the blood clotting issues mixed with, maybe they got COVID, so maybe they had some COVID cells in their system, some antibodies, and they also got the vaccination. Maybe that's what this means. You let me know what you think down in the comments. And then we got 106 reports of death were inconsistent with casual association to the vaccine, so it's unlikely that it was linked to the vaccine. That might be because they didn't find the usual markers that they might find in that regard. So they didn't find the vaccine floating through the person's system, that the vaccine actually did stay in the muscle in the arm or something along those lines. I would imagine that's what that one means. And for 163 reports, there's just not enough information to complete a preliminary assessment. So that would be, they took some blood from the person and then they cremated the body, right? That's what I'm assuming that means. So that means that they just didn't get enough information to be able to say what was happening. Then again, some skeptics would say that that is actually them covering up the deaths. But right here, no matter what, we have 4 deaths that have been casually associated with the vaccine, and that's not good. Because usually if one death happens because of a new vaccine, it's usually pulled from the market. If there's severe adverse events, like there was a couple other vaccines that I looked into a while back that caused some serious issues, and so they suspended the mandatory use of it, or not mandatory, but recommended use of it, until they figured that out. And then they did pull that vaccine off the market when they figured it out, and it had to do with children. So they suspended it, and they wouldn't recommend it, but if a parent wanted to get it, then they would be put into a trial, like a clinical trial, right? So they would then monitor the child afterwards. That's how that went until it was actually pulled from the market, and a new vaccine for that came out later on, from my understanding. Anyways, so like I said, all of these links will be down in the comments or down in the description. Please leave me a comment of what you think about these revelations and these interesting things, because 4 people died in Canada that is registered with Health Canada because of the vaccine, uh, or casually associated to the vaccine. Let's make sure that we're being clear there. And yeah, so let me know what you think, and you have yourself a wonderful